While the battle in Congress over border plans and funding for Israel and Ukraine continues to rage, Ted Cruz has shifted his focus onto something even more important, and that is special treatment for political VIPs at airports. According to a new piece in Politico, Ted Cruz has successfully attached language to a new aviation policy bill that would, if passed, give political VIPs, including lawmakers, federal judges, cabinet members, and some of their family and staff, a dedicated security escort at airports, along with expedited screening outside of public view. However, some people feel that this might be an effort to avoid being spotted and photographed by constituents at airports. You might recall that in 2021, Ted Cruz was spotted trying to leave Texas during a major winter storm that left millions of Texans without power. Here is an image of Ted Cruz. And here he is on the plane heading to Cancun as Texans froze. Now, in defense of his proposal, Cruz says that this is about protecting political figures who receive threats. So let's hear him out. He's told Politico that his amendment seeks to ensure that political VIPs who have received threats in the past are or are under an active threat aren't endangered as they pass through public spaces and airports. There are serious security threats facing public officials, Cruz said last week. It's important that we take reasonable measures to keep everyone safe. And to that point, US Capitol Police said that last month that it investigated over 8,000 instances of threats against lawmakers in 2023, and that the number of threats against lawmakers increases during an election year. But what do you both make of this? Do you think this is really about threats, or do you think this is about preferential treatment for people in power?
I think it's a little bit of both. So do they want preferential treatment? Of course. So like, to sit in there in a TSA line or a clear line with the other only just rich people, right? And by the way, TSA and clear are also used by non-rich people, but they're much faster than standing in a normal line. You could just do that, but that's not good enough for them. They want to be pampered, but there's two very serious reasons why they want this. One is there is a little bit of a security threat from MAGA. If you remember after January 6th, Trump fans accosted Republican senators at airports. And some of the Republican senators then later said that they were worried for their safety, and that's why they voted for Trump, to acquit him. So that is a hell of a thing. But so Ted Cruz is not afraid of us and progressives, etc. He's afraid of his own voters. So that is fascinating. So that's the only legitimate part. But mainly what they want to avoid is getting caught by reporters and which are almost always independent reporters and journalists at airports, which Jordan can tell you about in a second. Because God forbid they should be held accountable. There only are representatives. Okay, hell.
Yeah, it's all fun and games with those like, I want my guns, until it's pointed at you. You know, yeah. Like yeah. But because it's not the libs that are running around like pointing guns at lawmakers, certainly. But also, yeah, you're representing the people. And you don't want your constituents to be able to get close to you. Like, what is even your point? Like, what is the point of you? Your whole point is to represent the people who elected you. And you don't want them, so you're effectively being like, I don't want anybody who voted for me, who is in my constituency, to be able to get within whatever, 50 feet of me. Come on, grow a pair, okay? Grow a pair of warm nuts or cold nuts or whatever temperature nuts you need to grow. Grow some nuts.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a story about who Ted Cruz is actually working for and how he apparently never grew those nuts in a second. But Jordan, more details.
Sure, there's like you mentioned, that is surprisingly one of the few remaining avenues that independent media or advocates have to access members of Congress. Now, having worked in the advocacy space for like a decade now, I can tell you that's a consistent and reliable strategy. You can go there when you know Congress is heading home for the holidays. You can go to Reagan or Dulles, and if you know they're heading out for certain events, or the House or the Senate is out for a long weekend, people will flock there if it's at a certain moment where you're trying to fight for something, get them on the record for something. It's happened many, many times. So it's sure part of the embarrassment from the Cancun trip, but I think a lot of it is to avoid getting cornered by an activist or bird dogger or a reporter. That is one of the few remaining avenues that people have. But also, I think the threats part, I don't know if I really buy that. They already have security. And if they have, Congress has created, not Ted Cruz, but members of Congress before him, have created such a quagmire at the airport through TSA and then all of these other different piecemeal approaches. You could have pre-check, or you can have clear, or you could have pre-check with clear. And they've invented this problem that you have to pay to get out of. No. You created that problem, you have to sit in this with us. There's no way you get to bypass this mess that you created.
I hadn't thought of that. That's another great point. That's right. Yeah, hey, if you're worried about the lines being too long, good news, you're a United States Senator. You can do something about that.
Good point.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of what Jordan's talking about. Lauren Windsor at Undercurrent has done some brilliant interviews with reporters with politicians at airports. And so, as I think Anna would say, they don't like that. Okay, and so let me tell you about Ted Cruz and who he actually works for and why he wants to avoid you guys. So you remember Donald Trump called his wife ugly and said his dad was he had killed JFK because Donald Trump's a lunatic back in 2016, and so Ted Cruz said that he would not endorse him at their convention. And then all of a sudden he turned around. You guys remember that? And they started phone banking for Donald Trump and shining his boots with his tongue and all that. And so you're like, what happened? I mean, I know he's a snake, but that was a big turnaround pretty quickly. What happened was after his speech at the convention, he went up to the box where his top donors were, the Mercers. Robert and Rebecca Mercer had given him $13 million in the primaries. And they slammed the door in his face because they had switched allegiance to Donald Trump. And so they said, how dare you not serve our new water boy? We picked this little bitch called Donald Trump. Now he'll do everything we tell him to do. And by the way, the Mercers were right. Donald Trump then cut corporate taxes, estate taxes, and all the taxes that Mercers wanted cut. Robert Mercer ran a hedge fund. So those are the guys who actually run the country. So once they slammed a door in Ted Cruz's face, he turned around immediately and was like, I meant Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump. Who cares about my wife? And my dad, yeah, could be a murderer. I don't know. He was kind of dicey when I was growing up. So that's who he works for. He's like, I gotta get through the airport to get to my donors. How else am I gonna get to New York and kiss their ass? I gotta do the left cheek and the right cheek. I can't be bothered by you guys at the airport. So that's what Ted Cruz does and who he serves. Now, finally, I have a fun story on meeting politicians at airports. So my advantage is that I recognize them all, right?
Right.
So and I got no problems going up to them. Okay, let's just put it that way. And sometimes they recognize me. So Nancy Mace recognized me the other day at the airport, and so I told this story to members earlier. To become a TYT member, you get all the cool stories first, tyt.com/join, or hit the join button below later when you watch this. Anyway, she's like, oh, I know you. She's like, you guys do all those stories where you make fun of me. And she's like, but it is kind of funny. And I was like, oh.
Whoa.
I was like, okay.
She actually watched.
Yeah, and then she's like, we need private security around here. She didn't say that. And finally, Louis Gohmert, a guy that I used to call the dumbest man in Congress, which is a hell of a title to earn, man. And Louis earned it in 1,000 different ways. He once said that Barack Obama was going to reconstitute the Ottoman Empire. How I missed that memo, I'll never know. Yeah, you never know. You never know. Michelle Obama comes back. Here comes the Ottoman Empire. Okay. He also said Obamacare would kill 20% of the women in the country. Yet they remain largely undead. So Gohmert, though, the reason I set that up is And I go and ask him because I know that he actually agrees with me on one issue, which is a constitutional convention, okay? So, and I go and ask him, hey, what do you think Trump thinks of a convention? Because if he pushes for it, we might actually get it. And populist right, populist left, etc. And Gohmert said, basically, he's like, I don't think Trump understands the Constitution well enough to know what a convention is. I'm like, oh my God, Louis Gohmert thinks Trump's a dumbass. Wow. And that was kind of early on. And so that gives you a sense of how unbelievably dumb Donald Trump is.
But also that's the beauty of coming up to these politicians at the airport. It's like, it's the real them. Because they don't have the spokesperson, they don't have the team surrounding them being like, don't say that, don't say this, don't say that. It's they're a little bit, they're trying to get their luggage and the kid and going through it's the real, they don't have the shield up that they usually have when they're behind the lectern and it's a proper press conference and they have the team whispering and they have their talking points in front of them. It's like, I gotta go. And then just blurt out the truth then sometimes, and you're like, what? That's what you really think? Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe you just admitted it. That's crazy, but that's what you want. That's when you want to get at them. And as a constituent, you should be able to.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.